Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving?
Welcome back. We're your host, Savannah.
And Kaylin. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode. We're on episode 19. Today, I do not have Savannah with me. It's just going to be me solo again. So, we're going to keep it light and just do some Am I the Asshole Reddit threads. All right, so let's get into it. Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving? I, 30, met my boyfriend 33 years ago. Before me and him were together, he was with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me his ex's name, until my boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name, Janet instead of Ginny, fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My boyfriend has two sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to a barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my boyfriend's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my boyfriend what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What?" I thought Janet was bringing the turkey. There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me, he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, to be honest, but I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? Definitely didn't do anything wrong. She shouldn't have been calling you another girl's name. Am I the asshole for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother in law and his daughters are out of our house? My brother in law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane, with him a couple months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe, who's 16, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they could get their hands on: makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls, and this is typical teenage girl behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but what Zoe told me when she found the kit on her bed, and she was crying. I told my wife, and she said she'd asked Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found out she was moving valuable belongings out of the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughter saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it, and I straight up told him. He said, "My daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff." He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart, and she shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it. But I said this lock does not get removed until her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kick them out and said her family will hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do. So she should start with blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces/granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe the silent treatment, and my wife is very much upset over this. I don't get the big deal. Am I the asshole for making a dad joke? No, my stepdaughter, Madeline, was about a year old when I married her mother, Jessica. Madeline's father died before she was born. Madeline is currently 15 and she's rebelling for almost everything. She did something bad, so while picking her up, I set a punishment up for her. Then she said, "You're not my dad. I don't have to follow you." Honestly, I got a bit hurt from that, but I understand that she didn't mean it and she'd probably change. I just replied, "I'm still your legal guardian for the next 3 years, and as long as you're in my house, you have to follow my rules." That happened about 2 days ago. So our family was going grocery shopping when Madeline said, "I'm hungry, I need food." I decided to be extremely cheeky and say, "Hi, hungry, I'm not your dad." My son just started to laugh uncontrollably. My daughter was just quiet with embarrassment, and my wife berated me. Not to stoop down on her level, I honestly thought it was a funny dad joke. And my son agrees. So am I the asshole? Edit. I did adopt her, so legally I am her parent. Mini update. I'll probably give a full update later, but here's what happened so far. I go to my daughter's room after dinner and begin talking with her. "Hey, I'm really sorry that I hurt you by the words I said, and I really am your dad. I changed your diapers, I met your boyfriend, and I plan on helping you through college. And plus, I'm legally your dad, so we're stuck together. But seriously, I'm going to love you like my daughter, even if you don't think I'm your dad." Then I hugged her. She did start to cry. I assume that's good. I think it was a harmless joke. I don't think he was trying to be an asshole. And it's good that he apologized to her and they made up. I like whenever stories have a happy ending. Am I the asshole for telling my extended family how many men, roughly, my sister has slept with after she outed our youngest brother as a virgin? We had a family dinner this evening. My family has 4 kids in total. Me, my elder sister, 29, younger sister, 24, and youngest brother, 22. Extended family attended our family dinner, so all of our significant others, our cousins, aunts, and uncles, etc. During the dinner, my eldest sister and younger brother got into a mild disagreement. My sister seemed, at least to me, to be coming across as very aggressive out of frustration and losing said argument. The two of them were too absorbed in their argument to realize the rest of us were getting a bit fed up. Eventually, my sister got really fed up and said, "Shut up. I'm not going to argue with a 22-year-old virgin." My brother hadn't done any personal attacks up until that point. It was completely unprovoked. I think it might have been the alcohol, as my sister is a mean drunk. Anyway, I immediately told my sister to grow up and that she was making an embarrassment of herself. She replied by saying everyone knows he's a virgin and she didn't say anything wrong. This annoyed me as my bro definitely has confidence issues and doesn't need to be made fun of like this. So I responded by saying how she slept with well over 100 men while she was in college, and that since everyone in the family knows, it's not a big deal, right? Well, turns out her husband didn't know this amazingly. I genuinely assumed he must have known. He left the party angrily, saying my sister misled him about her past. Family is blaming me for their marital problems. I refuse to accept I did anything wrong. My sister bullied my brother in front of everyone. All I did was give her a taste of her own medicine. Yeah, I agree. If she didn't want to be outed about her sex life, then she shouldn't be outing other people about theirs. Am I the asshole for punishing my son after he said something racist? About a week ago, my family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter was taking the cat upstairs to put it in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I'm at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So later that night, I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a 1-page paper on Chinese culture and a 1-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day, I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver, as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night, my husband and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the delivery driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes, and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me it was just a joke and that it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how and what he said was wrong and hurtful. Yeah, definitely think he deserved to have some sort of punishment. Don't really know if she went over the line. I mean, definitely not cool for him to be saying racist shit. So, gotta learn somehow. Am I the asshole for getting up from my chair in the middle of Christmas dinner and shouting, "Shut the fuck up about my body," in response to my husband's observation? So, ever since I had my son months ago, my husband has started making indirect comments about my body. He never says any hurtful words, but I find his observations, as he calls it, hurtful. For example, he'd see me wearing an old top and say, "Oh, that top used to look good on you, but not anymore, though." Or when he looks at my waist and says, "Wow, didn't know your waist could get this wide." Basically, passive stuff that I tried to ignore till it extended to friends and family. FYI, this went on for months and months and months. We went to Christmas celebration at his family's home. My sister in law complimented my floral maxi dress, and my husband said, "I agree, it looks nice on you, though I have to admit that your waist could get smaller than this." Awkward silence took over. I was absolutely fuming, and this was my last straw. So I got up from my chair in the middle of dinner and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Shut the fuck up about my body." He was absolutely speechless as his family stared while some others tried to get me to calm down, but situation got more tense and dinner ended up being cut short and my husband storming off to his friend's place to spend the night. Upon leaving a really nasty text saying I embarrassed him and made a scene over an observation he made. He called me childish and told me to get therapy for my insecurities instead of verbally abusing him and scarring his family. Now I feel like an absolute idiot asshole and like I ruined Christmas for everybody with my oversensitivity. Am I the asshole? No, your husband should get therapy for verbally abusing you for months and months and pushing you to that point of feeling like you had to snap on him in front of his family. Maybe don't embarrass her about her body in front of her family and she won't embarrass you. Am I the asshole for silently getting up and walking out of the restaurant during New Year's Eve dinner after I was told to pay for everyone at the table? I, female 32, recently inherited a good amount of money from my mom. I keep the money in a separate account as I still haven't decided what to do with it and I didn't want to have it go to waste. I noticed my husband constantly bringing up the inheritance money and making countless suggestions as to how I should spend it. Another thing is that he expects me to pay for nearly everything the past couple of weeks. For New Year's Eve, my husband and I met up with his family at a restaurant to celebrate. It was going fine until I found out that I was expected to pay for everyone at the table. My husband's mom joked about paying for dinner out of my inheritance pocket, which made me livid, but I showed no reaction. I just silently paid for my own food and drinks, then got up and made my way out of the restaurant. They were shouting after me like a crowd, and my husband tried to get me to come back, but I drove home. He got back at 3 a.m. yelling at me, saying I was pathetic to get up and walk out on him and his family after they relied on me to pay for their food and thought I was gracious enough to do it. But they were wrong. He said I humiliated him and his family and that what I did was attempt to get back at them for not being able to help my mom when she was sick. Not true is all I'm going to say. He's mad and is saying that I caused a huge rift between his family and me when it wouldn't have hurt me to pay for the celebratory dinner. Am I the asshole? No. Your mom dies and you're expected to just pay for everyone for everything out of her inheritance money? That's really fucked up. What? What even? Am I the asshole for telling my son he deserves his girlfriend breaking up with him? So my son had a long distance girlfriend recently for about 2 years. She was great, a really nice girl, and we all loved her and welcomed her with open arms. She was flying here constantly to visit him, like a weekend a month, and he didn't lift a finger to go visit her. I tried talking to him about it several times and told him he should really start looking into flying over to her instead of expecting her to do all the traveling. He said no, and my wife probably had something to do with it as she constantly told him she was afraid of him flying. I spoke to them both and said, "This girl is great for him." She was willing to move over to our country too, but said there was one condition, and that was he'd have to fly over to her country too, which is fair enough. He said no, he didn't want to fly or travel anywhere. My son was becoming lazier and lazier, eventually telling his girlfriend and us that he was perfectly fine never traveling anywhere, including holidays, etc. Last week, he told us that she dumped him. I went on her Facebook page as we're still friends. She wrote us an apology letter about how she's still upset it didn't work out, but these things happen, so we're on good terms. And looks like she's with a new guy already. Me and my wife have no doubt she was seeing him while still in the relationship with my son. I confessed to them both that I actually agree with her decision and that he should have expected it. He did not treat her properly, and I hope he learns a lesson for the next one because he needs to make more of an effort. I said he deserves it for his lack of effort in the relationship and for essentially just allowing this girl to spend all her money and time coming here all the time. Wife and son are very upset that I said this. Very, very upset, and my wife says I'm being horrible. Am I the asshole? I stand by what I said. I feel like he's not the asshole, but at the same time, she shouldn't have cheated on him. Like, it's one thing to dump him because he's not contributing to the relationship, but I don't condone cheating ever. So, am I the asshole for giving my ex wife a large amount of money I won despite the anger of my girlfriend? I recently won a fuck you amount of money. I won't say exactly how much, but it's in the millions. It makes me feel funny even typing it. It's enough to change the life of myself and my family. My ex wife is the mother of my two kids. She's an amazing woman and good to the bone. We divorced 6 years ago because I had an affair with my current partner. I was in a low place in my life and I fucked up. She was an incredible pain, but like a fucking saint, she allowed me to still see the kids who mean the world to me, allowed our divorce to be as pain free as possible despite the fact I know she was hurting. She still is close with my parents. She's respectful to me, although she refuses to talk to my girlfriend. She was actually the first person I phoned after my mom and pops after I found out I won the lottery. She was pleased for me, joked that I could take the kids on a world round trip, and that was that. Nothing else. As soon as I won, I knew I wanted to give her a significant amount. I still love her. She's the mother of my babies, and I feel like this is some small, tiny way I can show her that I'm not a complete fuck up. She deserves to know that I care despite my mistakes. She also works a shitty job in a public library which pays her peanuts. She would actually be able to pursue her hobbies this way, give our kids a better life between us. I haven't discussed this with my ex yet, but I have with my parents who strongly agree and my lawyer who was very surprised but on board. Long story short, when I told my girlfriend, she was livid, screaming that I'm disrespecting her, accusing me of still being in love with my ex wife. I'm not in love with her. We've both grown apart, but of course, I still have love for her, for being an excellent co parent and partner and mother to my kids. My girlfriend is threatening to break up with me, and to be honest, I'm feeling incredibly relieved over the threats. I don't plan on changing my plans, but am I the asshole? I don't think you're the asshole. She's the mother of your kids. She takes care of your kids. You're rich. She's struggling. Why is it such a big deal? I mean, I could see her being insecure because he got with her and cheated on his ex with her. So she probably has, insecurities about that, but that's not his ex's fault. Am I the asshole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? One of my best friends, Carla, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard type of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now. And originally, it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has a lot of open space for the reception, a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. Of course, I said yes. She and her fiance, Rick, were very happy. Thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife, we got married, Carla met Rick, and now we're here. Now, my wife knows I went out with Carla back in college and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not, but it's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick found out recently, and not in the best way. Not sure how, but from what I heard, his friends, one that is mutual friend, told him. No idea why. Not only that, but apparently, Carla said a couple years ago she was still in love with me and that she was already dating Rick. Don't have actual confirmation if that's exactly what was told. All Carla has told me is that Rick was told about our past and he's angry at her for never saying anything. It became quite a drama and didn't hear from her for over a month until now. She told me that they're going to couples counseling and that the wedding is still on, but Rick requested that I not attend. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable. Then I asked the obvious question: where are they going to hold the wedding then? To my surprise, she said they still wanted it at our place. Rick said it was okay, and in my mind, I'm going, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiancee years ago at the wedding, but he still wants the wedding at his house? My friend and I are expected to, or my wife and I are expected to just not be at our home that weekend. And I told Carla no. They're going to have to find someplace else since we're not going to simply leave our home for them for the weekend. Not only for safety reasons, but it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have their wedding at my house. They really want their wedding here, though, and because of that, I've been bugged by not only her, but also Rick and some friends who think I'm being a petty asshole for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, I don't think that I am. It just doesn't make sense at all to have to leave our own place for the wedding that we're no longer welcome to and leaving our home totally vulnerable. Still being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. Am I the asshole? Um, no, not the asshole. Like, the least you could do, it's not r- this guy's fault that Carla didn't tell her man that they used to be together. Like, that's some foolishness. Am I the asshole for telling my parents that they ruined New Year's celebration after they kicked my husband out over a joke? I've been married to my second husband, Mike, for 4 years now. He's a jokester and loves to crack jokes all the time. He especially likes to joke with my brother Ethan and his wife. Ethan used to be okay with it until he started complaining about Mike taking it too far with his jokes. Some context about Ethan. He and his wife couldn't have kids, so they adopted a boy, Joey, 2 years ago. Mike has been making silly, lighthearted jokes that involve Joey's bio parents as a way to mess with Ethan and his wife. I already talked to Mike, and I tell you that he's 100% means no harm and he was just trying to get them to react. So, fast forward to New Year's Eve. My parents hosted a big celebratory dinner, and Ethan and his wife came. While we're eating dinner, Mike decided to tell a knock knock joke to Ethan. He said, "Knock knock." Ethan laughed and said, "Who's there?" And Mike replied, "Joey's bio parents." And then he bursted out laughing. Silence took over and Ethan's facial expression changed. His wife called Mike an idiot, to which Mike replied with, "Hey, relax, it was just a joke." An argument ensued and the dinner was paused. My parents suddenly told Mike to leave, which I thought was too harsh. I tried to speak to them and get them to calm down, but my mom insisted that Mike leave. We left, and Mike was complaining the whole time about how they overreacted. I called my mom later, and she told me Mike was out of line with his hurtful jokes about this touchy topic, and he told me I was wrong for defending him and saying he was just joking. She said he ruined New Year's for the family, but I told her it was her and dad who ruined New Year's celebration for escalating the situation and kicking him out. I told her he could talk to them, but again, they were the ones who ruined New Year's celebration. She called me delusional for this statement and hung up. We haven't talked to them for days. I tried contacting Ethan, but no response. Yeah, you're the asshole. If someone has already told you that they don't like those type of jokes and that it's too personal for them and it offends them, don't joke like that anymore. It's not that hard. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend that being depressed is not an excuse for being lazy? Hmm, I have always supported my girlfriend. We've been together for 4 years now and lived together for one. She's always had anxiety as well as depression, where some months are worse than others. I have supported her through all of this and understand it's very hard for her. In January, she lost her job due to the current world circumstances. By March, she hit a low point with not eating as much, crying, irritability, typical traits of depression. I've comforted her as much as possible and taken care of everything. However, at the beginning of June, I was allowed back to work, and since then, the house has fallen to shambles. I'm too tired by the time I come home to do anything, even cook. Most nights we order takeout, and on the rare occasion, she makes food. The floors aren't being washed. Nothing's being done. Laundry is a mountain and dishes are everywhere. I try to keep on top of it, but with work, it's almost impossible. She is home all day. She lies in bed till late afternoon, watches Netflix, eats bowls of cereals, and naps. That's about it. I've tried to gently coax her to do more, and she says that she'll get to it, but she never does. I finally snapped. I told her I was sick of her doing nothing all day and leaving the housework to me, that if she's here and I'm working, she needs to be pulling her weight. She got upset and said that she wants to, but she can never find the motivation, that she's tired all the time. I said I understand she was depressed, but it isn't an excuse to do nothing and be lazy. No one likes housework, but I won't take any more excuses about it. She needs to start doing it or leave. Depression is not an excuse. Some people literally physically can't do anything. But I can see both sides of this because it's still not fair to him. But as her partner, you are accepting that you're going to be with this person even if they're going through a hard time. And I feel like even though he's like somewhat in the right, like she needs to step up a little bit and help some, it wasn't the right approach to take. Like being like, that's not an excuse, you're lazy. Next day, I come home to a clean house and a note from her saying she was sorry and that she's going to stay with her mother. Her mom helped her clean before they left. I tried calling, but she wouldn't pick up. When I rang the house, her mother answered and had a lot to say. She was furious, telling me about how she's struggling and I'm making her worse, that I should be supporting her, not ignoring that she's in a bad place, and so on. I was told my girlfriend had been crying all day in her bedroom and I felt awful. I never wanted to hurt her, I just snapped. I tried to get her mother to give my girlfriend the phone, but she wouldn't speak to me. It feels like a lose lose situation. On one hand, I know depression results in lack of motivation and cleanliness. And on the other hand, I can't stand to see our home in such chaos. I've never had depression, so I can't say for sure how bad it truly is. That's why I find it more difficult to 100% empathize. Am I the asshole for telling her depression isn't an excuse? Extra info: she has a therapist and talks regularly with them. Her depression is worse since losing her job. Usually she's quite clean and tidy. We don't usually have these issues. She's looking for a job despite depression, etc. I have enough money to support us both in the meantime. Yeah, considering that she's normally a very clean person and you know that and she's going through depression right now, definitely a little harsh. Like, obviously, something's not working for her, something needs to change. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance college money? Context: my sister and I lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money, inheritance, for me and my sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now because my brother in law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be a doctor, but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother in law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I end up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy because if I give her money from my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be priority and that I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me that this is what I was saying no to: a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish and not a good aunt or sister. I asked my friend, and he said to let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give the money, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. Yeah, definitely agree. She ain't getting that money back if she gave it away. Like, how you gonna live in luxury and you can't afford your surgery to survive? That part. Am I the asshole for storming off from my sister's wedding after she dead named my son? I'm a 45-year-old single father of three. Their mom died 10 years ago. I have three sons: Andrew, Connor, and Max. Connor was born a female and he is trans. He came out as trans 5 years ago and now has socially transitioned, not yet physically. My sister just got married. Me and my sons were also invited. My family has known that Connor is trans for 2 years now. Some have adjusted well, some not so much. My sister is pretty indifferent about it. Her wedding was really super well organized to the last detail. She wanted all the men to wear shirt plus tie and all the women's sundresses. I texted her a picture of her outfits the day before the wedding. She said, "Where's Nia's dress?" I was a bit surprised and told her not to dead name my son and that he'll be wearing a shirt and a tie like the rest of the men there or we aren't coming. She said, "Fine," and that was it. At the reception, my sister got mad that Connor was wearing a tie, but didn't say much after that. When we went to sit down at our table, the card said Nia. I went to my sister and she said she used their real name. I told her me and the boys are leaving, and she told me, "Don't you dare cause a scene at my wedding. Nia can be a guy any other day." I called her a bigot and we left. My family says I ruined her wedding. No, you're not the asshole. Your sister is absolutely in the wrong. She can't respect your family, then bye. Am I the asshole for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? I'm a 28 female and I have a sister, 36 female. For the sake of the story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob and they have two kids, boy and girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now, for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor money and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. I moved out as soon as I could, and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now, after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysit sometimes, but I've made it clear just because I'm off work doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressured her for more info on this. She wants to adopt a teenager so she has a live in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17, someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew. She only has a 3-bedroom house, or sleep in the garage. They can help me with housework, chores, cook, and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies. Also, babysit the kids so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They'll be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings, and if they've been separated from their real ones, and clothes. I was horrified. Told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyways. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything, and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She sent some angry text. A couple of family members are on her side. They think foster kids are fucking dogs or something that would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So, am I the asshole here? Yeah, that's really fucked up. And sadly, there's so many people in the system that foster kids just for that pure reason to use them or to get paid money for fostering them. And it's just really, really fucked. Am I the asshole for canceling Mother's Day celebration that I arranged for my wife after hearing what she told my son? I have a 13-year-old son. I was a widower when I met my now wife. She has a 16-year-old daughter from another relationship. The family is often on pretty good terms. My son is the quiet one in the house. He keeps to himself a lot, but not to the point of being concerning. My wife and stepdaughter are the complete opposite. They both encourage him to be outgoing and share activities and join gatherings with extended family. My son complained about having to be forced out of his comfort zone and having his need for space invalidated. I spoke to both my wife and stepdaughter and asked them to give him space and freedom to spend his time however he wanted. They apologized and promised to let him be. As Mother's Day was approaching, I wanted to throw my wife a surprise Mother's Day celebration. It was no longer a surprise because my stepdaughter gave her the heads up so she could prepare. Yesterday, I got off work earlier than usual to get final arrangements done. We planned to celebrate at the restaurant and invited her family there. I had the key, and while I was entering the house through the front door, I overheard my wife and stepdaughter talking to my son. My wife was asking my son if he could convince me to let him stay home and not go with them to the restaurant to celebrate. I paused and decided to keep listening. My son said why, and she told him that his introverted and socially inept attitude will make her family uncomfortable and ruin the mood. He promised her that he would be well behaved and would try to interact and socialize with everyone, but she said that she wasn't buying it. He kept reassuring her, but she snapped and told him that technically she's not his mom, so she didn't get why he wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with her so badly. My stepdaughter threw some, I don't remember, backhanded comment, and then both of them were shocked to see me standing there. Both were staring without saying anything. I told my son and his stepsister to go to their rooms and told my wife that the celebration was off, canceled. She tried to argue, asking why repeatedly, and I told her why. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that and that I only heard part of the conversation, but not all of it. I told her I was done arguing, that the decision was already made. She yelled, asking what she was going to tell her family, and she said that I was making tremendous mistakes towards her. I ignored her while she kept throwing a tantrum after tantrum. Early this morning, she took my stepdaughter and went to stay with her folks. Not a single call or text from her so far. Situation is full of tension. I'm upset. I'm upset still, but more hurt to be honest. I mean, yes, I did say I was going to have the celebration, but I thought that what they said to my son was too harsh to ignore. As a parent, you have to advocate for your kids. They don't have anyone advocating for them besides you. Even when it comes to your wife or their siblings or whoever, he was completely not in the wrong. That's so fucked up that they were trying to manipulate him into staying behind, making it seem like he was just going to ruin the mood. Okay, last story. Am I the asshole for dropping my daughter from my wife and I's medical insurance? My daughter is 23 and I just got a call from her gynecologist. She apparently had previously had an abnormal pap smear that she never informed us about. However, then she got a biopsy which came back abnormal and she probably needs LEEPS. I'm very disappointed because I know she got HPV from a boyfriend and I disapprove of him because he was obviously someone who didn't look like he'd be loyal. And now she's stuck with the consequences, and my wife and I feel like if we pay for her treatment, it would be condoning it. We feel that she has no right to be sobbing and hyperventilating while also going on the "it's not my fault" mantra, and we don't want to enable her further. Now we're making steps towards ensuring that we will never have to pay for anything that she needs medically, and for that matter, materially anymore. Her credit cards have been cut off, but the dropping from insurance process hasn't progressed that far. What makes us even angrier is the fact that she had just lost her entry level job due to her company closing down, and she chooses to continue to see unreliable boyfriends. We raised her better. I built a great family business from nothing, and I shudder at what people would think if they knew my daughter got an STD from sleeping around at such a young age. Am I the asshole? Absolutely, you're the asshole. Your kid's health should come first. No matter what they did wrong, no matter what you think they did wrong, no matter who they slept with, that's ridiculous. I could never treat my kid like that. It's just sad. Well, guys, it's been fun. Thank you for sticking around for those of you who did. I know it's not our usual content, but I had fun reading these Reddit threads. Savannah was definitely missed. She'll be back soon. The cult episode is on hold for now, so sorry. It's in the works, I promise. It'll be coming soon. Um, Also, I just wanted to make a little announcement. If you are someone who is looking to be a guest on a podcast, we would love to have more guests and spice things up a little bit. If you have any interesting life stories, anything that relates to our topics, conspiracies, trending topics, mental health, anything like that, UFOs, near death experiences, just any cool topics that we could have an open discussion about. We do have a link in our description on our link tree. There is an application where you can apply to be a guest. And if you don't want to make an appearance on the podcast, but you have a cool story or you have a topic suggestion or anything along those lines, there's also a link in our link tree that is to submit submissions. It's called Be Candid with Us. Well, thank you guys for another episode, and we hope to see you next week for episode 20.